Yeah, so I'm Lynn. Hello, everyone. I'm the Vice Chair at Applied Arts Scotland and one of the team members who's been involved in the development, delivery and evaluation of this Connected Innovators project. So there's myself, Nettie Zapata and Carol Sinclair, all Applied Arts Scotland, all makers, and we've been working together with Steve Colmer from Soulless Heritage, who's with us here tonight as well. It's very exciting. Soulless Heritage is an organisation involved in working with the heritage sector to think about developing immersive experiences, and they do that a lot with museums, for example. So as an organisation, we are a membership organisation that's led by makers, for makers. We're very much interested in allowing the making community, professional making community and professionalising making community to create livelihoods for themselves that are sustainable. And we do that through a variety of activities, of which this Connected Innovators programme and this project I'm going to tell you about sits very squarely within the kind of the pillars of activity that we are concerned with. So the distance project, where am I going? Go next. Why is it not moving? There we go. So this project builds on a few years worth of work that Applied Arts Scotland has been doing in creating cross-cultural international residencies for makers based in Scotland, working together with makers, artisan communities and designers in Canada, Mexico and Thailand. And these are all projects where we have moved people around the world, either taking Scottish makers over to some of these other countries or bringing people from these countries back over to Scotland for periods of quite kind of intense and immersive interactions that allow sharing of skills and experiences, a real kind of cultural immersion in the country that people are in, and very much hands-on exploration of materials and processes. And as makers, those kind of hands-on elements are really fundamental and really crucial to everything that it is that we do. And really that kind of sharing of skills and experiences, that opportunity for cross-cultural conversations, explorations of identity, sustainability in terms of practice, as well as what it means to collaborate with other makers, has been the real value of all of these international residencies. And what we were interested in thinking about, and who had been thinking about this pre-pandemic, was, is there any way that we can bring some of those benefits of an international residency to our Scottish makers, but in a way that reduces our carbon footprint so that we're not flying people halfway around the world to be able to achieve the benefits of these cross-cultural conversations. But also thinking about it in terms of accessibility, because of course not everybody can get on a plane and sit for 6 or 8 hours and take the time away from their normal day-to-day life to allow them to experience these opportunities. So we're thinking, what could we do? What ways of working could we employ that would allow us to offer these opportunities and share these benefits with a bigger pool of our Scottish making community and the international making community? And that's the point at which we really started to think about some of the immersive digital technologies, and the point at which we got involved with Connected Innovators. And at the time we submitted the application, we were really thinking about it in terms of these sustainability and accessibility endpoints. But obviously the pandemic hit as we were just about at the point to start recruiting makers to take part in this project with us. So really it did very quickly become not just about these kind of international collaborations, but actually how do we support makers to engage with audiences, be that other makers or in fact any other audience that they want to engage with within a digital environment. So the Distance project was born out of that. Just before I move on, I'm going to tell you that the outputs from those international residencies have just, there's an exhibition of those, the Meet, Make, Collaborate exhibition, which has just opened at Inverness Museum and Art Gallery yesterday. So there's a link there if you want to go and find out more information. It runs until mid-June, so if you would like to go and visit it, please do. There is work in there from myself and others that actually incorporate data as part of the output. So if you're interested in nothing else, you might be interested in that. So distance stands for Digital Immersive Technologies and Craft Engagement, and is obviously very much about us allowing people to collaborate at distance, whether that's large distances or small distances. What we were interested to understand as an organisation was, what are those aspects of practice that makers want to be able to share, and who with? So who are the audiences? What are the things that they want to do within that immersive digital context? Is it about the kind of residency skills sharing? Is it about running workshops? Is it about doing a site-specific installation that is only ever observed in the digital world, or having online exhibitions? You know, what do they want to do with it? Is there something else that we haven't even thought about already that they might want to do with it? How do they use the technology to enable them to do that? Are there things that the technology works really well for and others that it's not so good at? And really kind of crucially for us, what are the aspects where makers need support, training? Where are the gaps in our knowledge and understanding about how makers can implement this as part of their practice? And actually, having had the opportunity to do so, do they want to keep implementing it in their practice, or is it something that they just go, nah, this is totally not for me, out the other end? We recruited 6 makers into the project, and we've been able to answer all of these questions. And even with such a small number, we've got massively diverse responses in terms of what people might want to do with it and how the extent to which they might want to engage with it moving forwards. And in fact, 2 of those makers are in the audience tonight as well, so maybe they can chip in when we get to the Q&A session at the end as well. In terms of how we structured it, we ended up delivering it all online using Zoom. Our intention had been that we might bring people together at some point at Steve's studio in Glasgow, where they've got a kind of a 360 immersive suite. We weren't able to do that, sadly. So we did have an introductory workshop where everyone came together. They got to meet each other, learn about each other, talked about what we were interested in, and thought about how we might want to use these technologies moving forward. We had 10 weeks in which to do this, so we really were just scratching the surface with this, in terms of almost all of our participants came at this completely cold, never having put a pair of goggles on before. And if they had put goggles on, it typically was, for example, as an audience member in a museum for a few minutes while they interacted with an exhibition display. So for us, it was really about learning how we introduce that technology. What information do these makers need, in what form, at what time in their journey, how frequently? And we set it up so that the 6 makers were put into pairs as well. So there was a little bit of the idea being there was kind of a bit of mutual support and a sounding board as well. So somebody who to kind of act as the audience for the other person in terms of thinking about how they might want to use the technology. We kind of had an evaluation embedded throughout this. We had regular contact with makers in terms of kind of dropping in new pieces of information, new apps might have become available. We were all working with the Oculus Quest 2 headsets. Initially, we had planned that each pair would have one, but because the price dropped, we were able to get one for each maker, which was great. And actually, it really added value to the project itself that every person had one. And every interaction we had with them, it was a case of getting a bit of feedback and changing. So we were kind of we had a sense of the direction of travel, but actually the path that we took changed in response to each individual's identified needs as we went on. And towards the end, we had some evaluation sessions with the participants. From our side, we've learned absolutely loads in a really short space of time with just 6 people who were really enthusiastic and really engaged with the project, which was amazing. The time commitment that they had to put in was much greater than we had anticipated when we set out on this journey. And it really was a case of them having to devote serious chunks of time, actually. This is a new skill set, and it needed that time and energy put into acquiring the skills that enabled them to achieve maximum benefit. There was a lot of support needed to allow that to happen, but we have been able to now develop use cases that explain to the rest of the world how we might manage to, or what the benefits of working with these technologies might be. I am hopefully going to play just a short 1-minute video that shows the outputs. So you can see a huge range of outcomes there in a really short time. And massive thanks to all of the participants who put in a huge effort into getting where they did. We have a project page. I can't even begin to cover all of the stuff that kind of came out of this. Go and visit that project page and you'll be able to find it a bit more information. It's a work in progress and it's going to be updated over the next week, partly because yesterday afternoon we actually had a 2-hour kind of dissemination and sharing event. So there's a lot more detail about the about what was produced and how it was produced and what we learned as a result of that. And we also now have a call for makers, which went live yesterday as well, to take part in a second phase of this project, because we've actually been fortunate to secure some funding from Creative Scotland to allow us to do a kind of an extended duration and more intensive exploration of how makers might want to work with this technology. So if you know anyone, please send them our way.